UFC Fight Night Vegas 54, Blachowicz versus Rakic just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well, starting with the early prelim opener of Nick Maximov versus Andre Petroski. I did not expect this one whatsoever. I thought that Nick Maximov was going to handle Andre Petroski pretty easily. They were both throwing some strikes back and forth on the feet. Andre Petroski missing a bunch of his shots early on the feet. Nick Maximov doing a little bit better, outlanding him slightly, and then Nick Maximov shot his takedown, didn't quite achieve it, ended up in a bad position, and immediately got, I believe, Bravo choked by Andre Petroski, if I'm remembering correctly, an Anaconda choke by Andre Petroski. Choked him out in the first round, the easiest win of Andre Petroski's career. He's taken on Gilbert Urbina, who is absolute garbage and a terrible, terrible grappler, and he took him to the third round before he could finish him. He took on Zhao Zhonghu, who was 3-1 as an MMA fighter, maybe 3-2 as an MMA fighter going into that matchup. A pure striker with no level of grappling whatsoever, and he took him to the third round to get that one done as well. But a real credentialed grappler who's been to tournaments, who's competed so many times in grappling, who's 8-0 undefeated by using grappling, Nick Maximov gets immediately subbed by Andre Petroski and put out cold. MMA, innit? Moving up on the card, Tatsuro Taira versus Carlos Candelario. I picked Tatsuro Taira to win this one by submission, and he got it done by decision. Now, it was a pretty impressive performance, I must say. Dropped him in the first round, I do believe, and had his back for certain moments. I think he dropped him with like a straight right hand in that fight. It was a very good matchup between the two of them. Carlos Candelario showed good patience on his back, not to end up in any bad positions and get himself submitted, but Tatsuro Taira was just a little bit too good. Beat him to the scrambles, was able to keep the back in very tough positions as well, where it maybe looked like he could have lost the back. He kept the back, he readjusted himself and found himself in dominant positions. And yeah, it was a very good first round for Tatsuro Taira. The second round was also very good for Tatsuro Taira. I gave him every single round of this fight. I mean, maybe it was the second round that he actually dropped Carlos Candelario in, I believe. In the first round, it was very close, but I still gave it to Tatsuro Taira because of the work that he did on the feet early on. Both guys landed a couple of decent shots, but Tatsuro Taira kept up the work rate, kept up the grappling moments as well. Even though he ended up on bottom at the end of the first round, I still gave that first round to Tatsuro Taira. Second round, he dropped him and also beat him up on the ground as well. And in the third round, it was now really close to a 10-8 round for Tatsuro Taira. Very, very good performance. Made a couple of mistakes here and there where he could have got a finish but didn't quite capitalize enough on it. But to get a decision win in your UFC debut, it's a lot of experience that you can't really pay for outside of the gym and work on in the gym. So it's good to get a nice 3-round win for himself. 30-27 on 2 scorecards, 30-26 on the other one. Great performance by Tatsuro Taira. Got a little bit risky here and there with a couple of the scrambles. He ended up in a bad position, but he always found himself back into a good one. Good job, Tatsuro Taira. He gets the job done. Moving on up the card, Virna Jandiroba versus Angela Hill. Virna Jandiroba, the grappling was the story of this fight. I thought Angela Hill would be able to sort of stuff those takedowns and have better moments on the feet, but you know what? Virna Jandiroba just out-grappled her. On the feet, I thought that Angela Hill had a big advantage, but she just didn't do anything on the feet as long as it was there. Wasn't urgent enough in the clinch. I thought there were some close rounds between the two of them, but at the end of the day, it was Virna Jandiroba's grappling that sealed the deal. Landing some total strikes when she needed to. Angela Hill actually ended up on top a couple of times. My tongue is swollen because I accidentally bit it in my live stream, so I'm having trouble speaking right now, but either way. Virna Jandiroba, she gets the win, out-grapples Angela Hill. Angela Hill is now 13-12, I believe, so I reckon it's about time to cut her from the UFC. She's not good enough to be here. She's terrible at fighting, and Virna Jandiroba out-grappled her in certain moments. 30-27 Virna Jandiroba. Good job to her. Angela Hill just loses again and doesn't look good again. I thought she was a good underdog, but no, Virna Jandiroba's grappling is good and she's strong for the division. Moving on up the card, Michael Johnson versus Allan Patrick. I'm going to be going with Michael Johnson. I don't know why I said that. I'm not predicting the card. I'm losing my mind here. Michael Johnson with an amazing performance. Amazing performance against Allan Patrick. Ended up in some bad positions here and there in the first round. Got outlanded here and there, but I thought he landed the better shots in the fight as well. Ended up on top himself in certain moments at the end of round 1, so I definitely gave him that first round, even though it was quite competitive. He landed the better shots on the feet. He even got rocked at one moment on the feet, but he timed a great takedown, ended up in full guard, kept his elbows tucked to avoid any submission attempts from Alan Patrick off of bottom, and he just sort of beat him up, man. Worked him down in the first, beat him up in the second with a nice stiff jab, and the 3-punch combination finish was absolutely amazing. One to the body, one to the head, and then a big left hook, tight on the inside, beat Alan Patrick to a punch on the inside and put him out badly. Followed up with a nasty right hand for a finish on the ground. Didn't get a performance bonus because they were busy giving a fight of the night bonus to Amanda Ribas versus Katlyn Chookagian for having a mediocre women's MMA fight. So Michael Johnson, Alan Patrick, great performance by Johnson. I would have given him a performance bonus, but you know what? Women had a non-boring fight, so give them a fight of the night bonus. Michael Johnson looked amazing, great second round TKO, and I think you should look to take on a guy like a Drew Dober next in the lightweight division, or maybe if he wants to, like call out a guy like Paddy Pimblett, who knows? Great matchup for him, he got the job done. Well done, Michael Johnson, you finally delivered. Dustin Poirier shaved his head, and all of a sudden we're back in time in 2016, and Michael Johnson's putting people out cold. Moving on to another matchup that took place on the card. Viviane Araujo versus Andrea Lee. I thought Andrea Lee was going to win this one, and I actually thought that going into the first round, even into the second round even, because Andrea Lee was doing really good in the first round, had a great moment in the first. It wasn't good enough to be a 10-8 round in my opinion, but she had great moments early on, dropped Viviane Araujo with a jab, and then followed up with a massive head kick afterwards. But Viviane Araujo refused to go down. She was outstriking Andrea Lee outside of that, and then eventually landed a really good body shot in the second that put Andrea Lee into a sort of panicked mindset. She shot a bad takedown, shelled up on the ground, got beaten up there, had her moments on the ground even, and landed some decent shots on the feet herself, but mainly it was the hustle on the ground from Viviane Araujo, the attempts for the rear naked choke, 10 minutes and 40 seconds of control time compared to Andrea Lee's none, and she just couldn't find her way out from on bottom, so it ended up being a Viviane Araujo 29-28 unanimous decision. Maybe there's an argument for a 10-8 round for Araujo, but even in the third round, Andrea Lee outlanded Viviane Araujo, but she found her way onto the back, found her way looking for rear naked chokes and landing total strikes. And Andrea Lee just cost herself the fight in the third when she went for a rear... What did she go for? She was losing the fight because of being taken to the ground. She was exhausted, so she decided to go for a, whilst backing up an exhausted front leg hook kick on Viviane Araujo, which is not going to score a KO, of course. Ended up on the ground because of it. And yeah, there's also a bit of controversy in the corner about beat this dirty Brazilian's ass or something like that. And Bilal Muhammad called the guy racist and stuff like that. But let's be real, if it was an American fighter saying, you beat this dirty Brit's ass back to the UK, no one would have a problem with it. So it's either all the same rule or get over your feelings, in all honesty. Stop being a bunch of soy boy pussies. Moving on. Up the card, Allan Nascimento versus Jake Hadley. Speaking of getting over your feelings, not quite over that one. Not the fight that I wanted to see from the pair of them. I thought they'd show up a little bit more. The first round was really fun. Had some really good scrambles back and forth. Both guys landed a couple of shots on the feet on each other, and then we ended up in a good scramble on the ground. Allan Nascimento got the takedown first. Hadley went for an omoplata, a go-go plata, turned it into an omoplata to end up back on his feet and end up on top. Eventually got reversed and ended up back on bottom. Kept going for the go-go plata again. Gave the first round to Allan Nascimento because he spent more time on top and landed more total strikes. And in the next two rounds, dude, Nascimento, he was good at scrambling. He didn't really do much to Jake Hadley on top other than just be on top. Hadley was trying to scramble on bottom, trying to get feet on hips, trying to make some kind of roll or sort of shrimp out into a better position and come up on a single leg. But Allan Nascimento is massive for that. I thought Jake Hadley was a giant for flyweight, and he looked like an atom weight out there. And he struggles making weight because he's so big for flyweight. Allan Nascimento is massive, and he just couldn't be shifted. His body weight could not be shifted off of Jake Hadley, and I feel like if Allan Nascimento gets on top of any of these flyweights, they're going to have a real problem, because that's a win, in my opinion, over Takira Lembekov on very short notice. On a full camp, he probably clearly beats him, and then a win over Jake Hadley, who I thought was going to be the next big thing in the flyweight division. If I had any advice for Jake Hadley, stop letting your opponents go first. Take them down yourself. This is not the time in the sport to start letting the fight flow. Let them do what they want to do. You are a grappler. Shoot first. Get the takedown. Take the back like you do. Needs to start going first a little bit more. I think he found himself a little bit too confident off of his back when he knew he couldn't really recover from that position. And Allan Nascimento was just too heavy on top of him. Didn't really do too much on the top position whatsoever. Hadley had the only submission attempt. But yeah, Nascimento just stayed on top for longer. So good for him. Hadley needs to go first. What are you doing? Letting the guy dictate where the fight goes in a grappler on grappler match. Moving on, up the card to another matchup. Manuel Torres versus Frank Camacho. This one got a performance bonus. Great performance by Manuel Torres. Looked very sloppy in my opinion, so I did pick him to win by first round TKO. He got the job done by first round TKO. I will say this. Little bit of an early stoppage. Do I agree that eventually Camacho would have gone out cold in that fight? Probably, because he went down badly. Didn't really respond as soon as the fight was called off. Herb Dean kind of committed and then didn't want to commit, so had to fully commit because he's already committed a little bit. So yeah, Manuel Torres gets the job done. First round TKO, amazing scrap back and forth in the first round. Torres landing really big shots, really big elbows as well. Good knees to the body, good kicks here and there. And Camacho landing some good shots back and forth on him as well. It looked like Torres was about to start gassing, in all honesty. He put a lot of work into that first round. And he was missing a lot of shots and winging with a lot of big, heavy shots. In my opinion, good performance from Manuel Torres. Really good win against Frank Camacho. This is lightweight. Really tough division to be good in. And I think a lot of lightweights are going to catch him on the chin. He's so open. He's a little bit slow. Sure, he's got good power and he's a scrappy guy and he comes to fight, but there's some things he needs to clean up defensively on the feet before he gets really badly hurt at lightweight. Good win from him, though, in this matchup against Frank Camacho. Moving on up the card. Katlyn Chookagian versus Amanda Ribas. I had Katlyn Chookagian winning this fight, clearly. I have no idea how people think this is a robbery. I think it's because the stats that they showed on screen were completely incorrect. I think they had something like Amanda Ribas 30 strikes in the first round, which would have meant that she landed 100% of her strikes, which just isn't true. The official stats have come out. 20 strikes to Katlyn Chookagian, 7 strikes to Amanda Ribas. I gave the third round very clearly to Amanda Ribas, but I gave the first 2 rounds very clearly to Katlyn Chookagian. There's nothing wrong with that decision whatsoever. Why are people calling it a robbery? I know, because they're absolute simps, and Ribas has a nice ass. So that's why people are calling a robbery. In women's fights, control time means everything, supposedly. In men's fights, it means nothing. I mean, we just watched Logan Storley versus MVP, and everyone was complaining that MVP didn't get the decision. All the casual fans, I thought Storley could have won that one. But they were saying control time doesn't mean anything. Control time doesn't mean anything. But when Amanda Ribas gets outlanded over double in the first round and gets rocked in the first round by a right hand, her being on top doing nothing for a minute and a half of that round means everything in the scoring. Make your mind up, casuals. Katlyn Chookagian, 20-7 in the first, 24-15 in the second. Rocked Ribas on multiple occasions with jabs and right hands that were landing all night long. Third round, more competitive. Ribas won that one, in my opinion, pretty clearly, though. First 2 rounds to Chookagian. Get over it. 29-28 decision. Moving on up the card to another matchup that took place. Davey Grant versus Louis Smolka. This was a great scrap. In my opinion, this one was fight of the night over Ribas versus Chookagian. But Ribas and Chookagian, I mean, they had an output of 20-7 in the first, 24-15 in the second, and 19-33 in the third. Davey Grant and Louis Smolka had an output of 45-14 in the first for Davey Grant, 27-56 in the second for Louis Smolka, and 9-1 in the third with a big finish. Both guys had their moments. There was knockdowns, there was crazy moments, but they're not female, so they don't get a 50k bonus each. Davey Grant, 10-8 in the first round, in my opinion, was literally beating Louis Smolka up so badly. He looked amazing in that first round. He has got gyno. Sorry to do a Jared Cannonier impression there, but hang on, give me a second. Good lord, I've messed up my sinuses. Davey Grant got the job done. Great performance in the first. got a 10-8 round, landed big shots to the body, was chopping at the legs very well, landing big shots to the head and great combinations. Lewis Smolka showed a hell of a chin in the first round before Davey Grant eventually put him down with a really nice jab that put him on his ass in the first round at the end of it. And I thought Davey Grant won the first round 10-8. Moving on into the second round, it was completely different. Davey Grant was still landing really good shots, but Lewis Smolka was starting to land some knees to the body, some stiff jabs on Davey Grant, starting to rip the body himself. Some lead elbows were landing from Lewis Smolka. Some jabs here and there. He wasn't really putting effort into his shots. Davey Grant was loading up, and Lewis Smolka was more just sort of jabbing and right-handing and making sure to really get the punches out there rather than put any volume behind it, or rather than put any power behind it. He just kept the volume out there, and he was finding a little bit more success against Davey Grant. Plus, in the second round, Davey Grant, in my opinion, was headhunting a little bit too much, looking for a finish, sort of abandoned the leg kicks and the body shots a little bit too much. Third round comes around, he comes out, body shots, leg kicks, deadens the leg of Lewis Smolka badly with a couple of vicious calf kicks in a row, and puts down Lewis Smolka and finishes him off by ground and pound TKO. Amazing win by Davey Grant. Shame he's not female, or him and Smolka probably would have got a performance bonus. Moving on up the card to another good fight, Ryan Spann versus Jan Cutelaba. Well, not really a good fight, but a good win from Ryan Spann. I didn't expect this one to happen. I thought he lost to Sam Alvey maybe, but he chokes out Jan Cutelaba in the first round, man. Got out-grappled early on in certain ways, but in other ways, he sort of found his way back up to his feet pretty easily. But immediately into the fight, he lands like a good 1-1-2 on Cutelaba, and Cutelaba shoots him for a really good takedown, gets the single leg, kicks out the leg underneath, ends up in full mount on Ryan Spann immediately into the fight, where Ryan Spann tries to buck out of it. He does eventually buck out of it. They both end up back on their feet. Both guys land a couple of shots each, like one shot each on the feet, and they both end up shooting again. Cutelaba gets the better of it, ends up on top, gets him down, doesn't really do too much to him on the ground, in all honesty. They both end up back on their feet again. Ryan Spann was just unbelievable with his takedown and get-up ability here, kicking off Cutelaba like he was nothing. Cutelaba seemed like a tiny man out there, and I always thought he was a big light heavyweight, but Ryan Spann's massive for light heavyweight, man. He is a massive, massive man, and very, very strong, and that was the problem for Jan Cutelaba. He couldn't really land what he wanted to. I think he landed one elbow of ground and pound and one glancing blow on the feet, as I just mentioned. Third takedown came for Jan Cutelaba, ended up getting it, but putting himself in a guillotine choke, had to reverse it, tried to roll over, couldn't quite roll over, put himself, I guess, into a deeper guillotine choke position, ended up tapping to a guillotine in the first round, still not fighting the hands. People just don't fight the hands on guillotines anymore. Listen, all of you MMA fighters that are watching my videos, I know I said guillotines don't work in MMA anymore, but stop listening to me, okay? Because you're all starting to listen to me and then starting to think to yourself, well, I don't need to fight it then. The MMA guru said that there's not going to be any guillotines in MMA because they don't work at high-level MMA. You're not high level, okay? So stop. You have to fight the guillotine. This has been happening so much recently. People are getting power guillotines, one-armed guillotines. Fight the hands. Fight the hands of the guillotine. No one's fighting hands on guillotines anymore. I know you watch my videos. I know I said they don't work anymore. No one's ever going to get guillotines again because people eventually started figuring out to fight the hands, pass over the legs. It's a very difficult submission to get. Stop listening to me, okay? Start fighting the hands again. There's been too many easy guillotines over the past however many cards. Really kind of pissing me off. Moving on. Good win from Ryan Spann, though. Good guillotine first round over Jan Cutelaba, so good stuff. Moving on. Jan Blachowicz versus Aleksandar Rakic. Good first round between the pair of them. Jan Blachowicz definitely won the first round clearly. Over-doubled Aleksandar Rakic on significant strikes. I had him winning that round pretty comfortably, in my opinion. And, yeah, he was doing very good in the first round, checking the kicks of Aleksandar Rakic. Rakic was checking some kicks back of Jan Blachowicz. Both guys had a similar output, but Blachowicz was a little bit more accurate, landing at the end of some of his punches on the chin of Rakic. Rakic had a decent chin in the first round. Didn't go down easy to some of those punches. Landed some good shots to the body of his own with a front kick, a body kick, and a straight right hand to the body. Jan Blachowicz was going for like a little lead left hook to the body. Right hand upstairs, body kick combo. It was like a nice little chain together of techniques for Jan Blachowicz in the first. Then it all changed in the second round. They both landed a couple of shots each on the feet, and Aleksandar Rakic sort of thought, forget this, I'm taking him down. Grabbed the leg of Jan Blachowicz, put him down on the canvas with ease by sweeping out the rear leg. Blachowicz still hasn't really improved his takedown defense, and Rakic dominated him on the ground for the rest of that round, about 4 minutes 33 of control time in the second, and just beat him up. beat him up on the ground, elbows to the body punches, elbows to the face, punches to the head as well on the ground. A couple of like tight uppercuts when they were against the cage. Eventually, Jan Blachowicz worked his way back up at the end of the round, but it was too late. Round was over. Dominant round for Aleksandar Rakic. 1-1 going into the third. Jan Blachowicz had a cut over his eye or under his eye from a jab in the first from Rakic. Rakic just dominated the second. Blachowicz is breathing heavy. Rakic is looking fresh, darting about. Good combo from Jan Blachowicz. Rakic lands a couple of shots back. They were 5-5 on significant strikes in the third round. And I guess because of the checked kicks of Aleksandar Rakic, Jan Blachowicz checked a couple of them. I don't know how that would affect his knee, but he stepped back and his entire knee combobulated, and it was done. His knee imploded from within, and that's it. His knee's done. 9 months off, and now we have to try and hype up Blachowicz fighting for a belt if Glover wins, because that's what they want to do next. So, not the best main event ending, really, to be honest. To stay up that late for, I wanted a bit of a more conclusive main event. It looked like Rakic was going to start winning, but these things happen. Don't get your leg kicks checked, I guess. And maybe it will happen less likely. But let's be real. That's some random shit right there. Either way, like and subscribe. Another bad card of predictions. Just low-level MMA. I swear to God, give me good cards. I'll give you good predictions. I predict high-level fights very well. Oliveira to beat Gaethje. First round rear naked choke. Like Chandler to KO Ferguson brutally. And you give me high-level fights, I'll give you high-level predictions. You give me these shit cards with fights that don't make no sense and no like level of quality on the fights whatsoever. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's just 50-50 really. It's a bit of a gamble. So hopefully, come July, I'll clean the fucking board off. I don't know how I'm going to do for Holm versus Vieira. Wish me luck to get back on top form. I had a massive great streak of like a 70% prediction rate. That's probably now going to be at about 57 after a bad couple of cards. 60 maybe. Not the best. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Holm versus Vieira next week, I guess. Good luck and looking forward to that one, I guess. Goodbye.